This video is going to show you Solo Master Nightfall getting Platinum rank on the 1580 difficulty. This run's basically going to be showing you a setup, so I'm using the Exotic Art Rifle Sweet Business, I'm using Pointed Inquiry, the new Void Scout Rifle, I'm using Royal Entry, a rocket launcher, with Field Prep Clown cartridge, and I'm also using the Exotic Chestplate Actium War Rig, which steadily reloads all rifles and machine guns, but obviously for this case it's reloading our Sweet Business. Now, Exotic Primary's got a 40% weapon damage bonus to red bar and miners. Not to all lads, just the red bars. But there is a lot of red bars, obviously, in Nightfall, so it's going to come in handy. Not only that, because of how Overload rounds works, where you have to charge up a shot. Well, the thing with Sweet Business is, you're going to have it constantly charged on that champ, because it's an art rifle, that's how it works. Because of its rate of fire and everything, it makes overloads a breeze. Because of that, I'm not messing around when I'm actually using this. This is an actual good weapon to overload champions. It's a second thought to most, obviously, because it's such an old exotic, but it's actually really good. It's really good on ad clear as well, but only really on a Titan. It's not worth it to be running it on a Hunter or a Warlock. Only on a Titan and only with the chestplate, which is why I'm using this setup. Our mods are the important mods. I won't cover all mods. I've showed them at the start of the video, so if you're confused, just check out the first 30 seconds. But the main components are resistance first. Double void resist, because acute void burn is on. You take plus 50% damage against void. So obviously you're going to go double void resist, because it does stack. Right, that's the first thing. We're using an elemental build, void well build, with volatile rounds, elemental ordnance, and things of that nature. But the main thing is the setup itself. There is a better setup than this, by the way, with Heart of Inmost Light. I just didn't go with that setup, obviously, because I'm showcasing a different style of play. With that section there, you want to make sure you melt down the overload first before you push up, because the barrier spawns as you push up. If you push up and the overload's still alive, the barrier will then shield the overload, and then you've just made this a lot harder than what it needs to be. So don't push up. These tips I'm giving you, you need to know for Grandmaster as well, because it's even more important when you're doing a Grandmaster, whether it be team or solo, doesn't matter. You need to know the particulars about Glassway. There's a lot of complexities with Glassway as a Nightfall, and a lot of people have sort of said it's probably been the hardest Grandmaster that we've had. Probably harder than Corrupted. Because, you know, so you need to know everything. Spawns as well. Spawns are so important. Not so much now, but when we get to the boss fight, it's very important to know all that stuff. This Void Scout Rifle I'm using is called Pointed Inquiry. It's the new one. Now I've got 4 times the charm, adaptive mutation, ammunitions on it, whatever it's called. That perk makes the weapon adapt to unmatched shield. So this is Void. If I'm shooting an arc shield, it's going to take it down quicker than what it should. Not only that, we've got 4 times the charm on it for extra damage, so it's good for barriers. So this is a really good barrier weapon that I've got. But that's the only good thing it is. That's the only. There's better scout rifles than this, alright? But I'm using it just to showcase the weapon. We're going to take out this overload. We'll double rocket him. It's very important you get that overload down as quickly as possible, because you're getting spammed by the mini boss. We'll use a void grenade to weaken the mini boss, because we've got Echo of Undermining on, with Expulsion and Remnants, with aspects Bastion and Control Demolition. As I said, I don't know if this is the optimal absolute best setup, but what you need to realise with me is I don't run the best absolute optimal setup all year round. Okay. Now I get a lot of people comment, especially when I'm maybe running some sort of a different build. They'll comment and say, well, do you not think this weapon's better than that? And you know the answer. Of course it is. Of course another loadout will be better than what I'm using right now, or for whatever I'm doing. But what you need to realise is I've been around a long time. I know I might be a small channel and stuff, but I've been in the solo environment now for a long time, doing videos on Destiny 2. And what you've got to realise is solo players have a hard time getting any views at all. Okay, We're not all of us are as big as some of the other players that come to mind, right? Now, as far as YouTube views go, solo players don't get high views. What gets high views? News videos, farm videos, twab videos. So for us solo players, it's a tough time, all right? You know, someone will come and watch one of our videos because they're interested in that, and then they won't touch our channel again. So you must understand, I am doing different builds to show interest in my channel, to bring interest, so that someone would watch it even if they don't like me. They might even want to see, how does this loadout work in this environment? Is it actually decent? Does it make you think differently about the game? If so, I've proved something. If it doesn't, I might get you on the next video. So you see where I'm going with this. So I do know what all the optimal loadouts are for each Nightfall, and what have you, and what the best setups are, and what not to run and what to run. But sometimes I purposely run a worse loadout, especially if that loadout is easily obtainable by 90% of people, i.e. not raid weapons, i.e. not raid exotics. Then someone could buy this game, level up with a couple of weeks, start soloing Nightfalls. That's the idea of the video, to appeal to more than just the high-end players. So once you understand that, you don't need to quiz me about why I'm running such loadout. The idea of the videos are to run loadouts that aren't run, so that you can get an idea of whether it's actually decent or not. That's it. And I'll end it with that. So you know it's a spawn kill the overload. How to do that isn't too bad at all. Obviously I had 2 rockets loaded in the chamber because it's a clown cartridge on my royal entry. I threw a grenade, got the stun, round about where that pillar is where the boss is standing. I was then able to double rocket and be finished with this area, because the problem with that area is when you jump down the cliffside, the boss will snipe you. Okay, this is very important to know when you're doing Grandmaster. He will also throw stasis nades. If you get trapped in a stasis nade and you try and jump to the other side, you're slowed, you might fall off map, or you might get double sniped, because there's a bunch of snipers that spawn in that area. Plus the mini boss himself is a sniper. Now you need to, as I say, be very careful, especially when you're doing the Grandmaster mode. Even if you're doing Master mode and you're under leveled, say 1571, 1560s, then you need to be very careful. Right, just take your time if that's the case. But once the mini boss is killed, once the overload is taken out, you can push up. So this works like the same previous rooms with the barriers. It's based on distance. When you push up past a certain mark, you get a spawn of adds, which will be a barrier, bunch of shanks, and a couple more vandals. You need to be prepared when you do push up. So I'm waiting, prepared. I'm going to spawn kill as many adds as possible before this barrier shields adds. So I do a nade to my left, you spam sweep business, which is really good for this, to be fair. I got nearly 90% of the adds, so I'm happy with that. Then we're going to do some chip damage to this champ, break him with the scout, and we'll just double rocket because I've seen a brick behind me. So the goal there was, use heavy if we need to, but when we leave the room, after adds are clear, we're leaving the room with full heavy for the next encounter. That's so important with solo play. You need to manage your ammo better than what you would in a team. Far more efficient. That's why certain weapons suit solo play more than team play. Right? Not to say that team play is easier than the solo. That's actually not the case, especially Legendary Campaign. Legendary Campaign is actually harder team. So I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the whole mindset, the whole way you're playing, the ammo, how you use it, is completely different to what it would be in a team. And that's what you need to start getting into. How can I maximize this certain room so that I'm still using enough heavy to get me by, but still leaving the room with max heavy for the next encounter or close to max? How can you do that? And that's what you need to start getting into. And that's where you start gravitating towards high damage primaries. Things like Malfeasance, Polaris Lance, even Sweet Business. It's actually really good on overloads. I'm not messing around. Trust me, I'm not messing around. It's actually really good. That's why I wanted to do it. Because I'd done a Sweet Business Grandmaster solo when it was anti-barrier auto. And it was amazing for an anti-barrier auto. It was. It's actually the same thing. It's amazing for overload just because of how overload rounds work. Whereas your standard auto rifles, some of them can do this, some of them can't though. Some of them can't. It just depends on what role you've got. They can't do it as good. Definitely not. It is one of the best auto rifles in the game. If you want to say that, because auto rifles aren't really, you know, a weapon that I would say this is a good archetype in Nightfalls. They're not. It's a weapon that we get tired of using, but with Sweet Business, it's very fun. A very fun weapon to use. So before we jump over to that final platform, there's obviously another overload. Before we jump over though, I want to clear out the snipers and the ads, so that we're in position and ready for a stun. Now when you see my grenade energy, that's what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on my grenade. I'll shoot this mine behind me. Try and clear out some of these ads. Wait for the overload. The overload can sometimes flank around right side. So I'm going to get a stun here. Use my grenade. If any ads are surrounding the champ, which happens a lot, they'll die to the nade and the control demolition. And that's the champ dealt with. And no heavy's even used. And I could have used heavy. Obviously, what I could be doing is using a bit of heavy, then finishing the champion before he's killed, and recuperating my 2 rockets that I used. But because of how high power I am, that would probably kill the champ. So if you don't use a nade and you 2 rocket a champ, you'll get them finishable so that you can then just recuperate the ammo that you lost. So Lucent Finisher is a massive mod this season. You need to make sure that you're using it. It basically means Aeon Gauntlets aren't needed. So for those people who are running Aeon Gauntlets, you don't need to be running those anymore. Stick on what exotic you want to use and just put on Lucent Finisher on your class item and you're done with it. I'm not saying Aeon Gauntlets are bad, they're amazing, but it sort of defeats the object with them if there's a mod out that can generate you heavy ammo and I can use the exotic that I want to use. Because Aeon Gauntlets, they don't give you, you know, I'd rather, you know, on a Titan use, you know, say I was using Thunder Crash, I'd rather use the chest plate over Aeon Gauntlets. Or if I'm on a Hunter, I'd rather not use Aeon Gauntlets, I'd rather use Office Rig or Star Eater, you know, whatever you can think. So for the plate, we're just using our Barricade mainly and spawn killing all the ads with the Sweet Business, trying to melt them down as quickly as possible. The spawns go left, right, left, right, left, right. So the quicker you take them out, the more likely you are to survive on the plate. If you're in doubt, back up, clear the ads, step back on plate. You know, step off plate, step back on. You don't need to rush this section at all. This whole entire thing is just slow, right? In terms of you don't need to, you're not required to push. So we're just taking out as many ads as we can before they hide. See, when the fallen are lower in numbers, which this is true for most ads, when they start to get lower in numbers, they are less confident and they will back up. And they'll attack you at a time when you don't want to later on. So I'm trying to spawn kill them as quickly as I can, and then once that's done, melt down the overload with the nade and the Sweet Business. Now we'll push up to this zone here. Once you push up to here, you get the next wave. There'll be snipers spawning and stuff. I was prepared to be weak there. I knew that was going to happen. That's why we have a barricade up. So we'll use that. The reason why I'm standing here is going to become clear in a minute. This shank is solar shielded, so we'll use a super on him. I could have used my scout, obviously, but there's a danger there that the shank might kill me by the time I take his shield. So I don't need my super for anything at this minute in time, so it's a good use of a super just to take down that match game solar shield. We're done with it. Now we just need to focus snipers and the champion and stuff. So there's 2 sets of snipers, left and right, and then there's one that stands at the very back. These snipers can be hard work. You'll find that on Grandmaster as well. You'll get them weak, they'll retreat. You can't get them, they'll hide for like 10-20 seconds. You'll fight some other ads, they'll come back and snipe you. You need to be constantly looking up to your left to see where them snipers are. The snipers to your right can't hit you from here. The sniper in the middle, top middle, has range drop off. The sniper has range drop off, so he isn't going to hit me from here. But the snipers to your left will. They also will jump down when they're lower in numbers. That's kind of what you want. You want the snipers to sort of jump down so that you're more confident to take out this barrier. We'll put a barricade down just to be safe because I was a little bit weak there. This barrier can be hard work as well. It's just a case of patience though. He's surely behind cover, so he would. That's what those barriers do, like I was saying earlier. If all you do is primary them, they will just do that. But they're also sort of wise to rockets. Try and rocket a barrier at full HP, they will teleport. That's why you do your rockets after the first stun. Always make sure you do that. We'll double rocket that barrier just to get rid of him, and then we'll take out the remaining vandals. There's a sniper at the back, etc. You know, we'll pick up any heavy before we leave from 7 rockets. See, the beauty of a field prep rocket is it does a couple of things. So it increases reserves. That's always a good thing, right? So I'm getting more ammo that way, and it's stacking with scavenger perks. So scavenger, I believe it's +1 to a standard brick, which will be 2, so that'll go to 3, and then with the field prep it'll go to 4. It used to be 5. Somewhere along the line it's changed because it went like 4 and then 5 rockets. I think it's just 4 now, but it stacks. That's why the field prep's so good for the solo player. Not only that, the clown cartridge, being able to double rocket a champion is very important, especially even on Grandmaster. You're doing massive damage. If you could double rocket a champion, you can get them just about finishable, especially with you know, the weakness effect from the void grenades. So we'll finish that champion to generate more ammo, because we're full on ammo, but we're going to generate even more for later. So that's why I finished that champion. We'll get a stun here, then we'll double rocket after that. So what I'm doing here is spawn killing the first overload Minotaur. Make sure you try and spawn kill as many ads as you can before a particular phase starts. This fight is complex, and if you're new to it, it's going to take you a lot of time to remember all the spawns, all the champions, etc. But it rotates between overloads and barriers. So for this first phase, there's 3 main phases if you like. But for this first phase, it's 2 overloads. Well, it's 4 overloads, but it's 2 sub phases within 1 phase, and that phase is linked to the Hydra's HP, the mini Hydra, because there's the big boss and then there's the mini Hydra. So if you do half of a bar to the Hydra, you'll get Vex reinforcements. So you don't want to do any damage to the Hydra. What you need to do is take down the 2 overloads that spawned initially. So do that first. Then any goblins, stuff like that, take out all those. Once you're done and it's just you and the Hydra, you then want to do damage to the obviously the Hydra. Now anti-barrier rounds will penetrate the Hydra's shield for the big boss and for the mini Hydra. So I'm going to use the Scout. Not only that, the Scout debuffs enemies because it's got Psycho Hack. So I haven't done a lot of testing in Psycho Hack, okay, but you can see it visually working. The boss will glow red. This is very similar to how you can overload targets with Overload. You lower their damage against you. Psycho Hack's a very similar thing. I don't know the resistance on it, don't ask me, because as I've just said, I haven't tested it. But obviously it's giving me some benefit because it's lowering combatants' damage. So that can only be a good thing. So once we've done our damage, we can then rotate between left and right. This boss is still damageable. Now on the latter phase, on the first phase, it's in your best interest to melt that Hydra. Get the Hydra away. The last thing you want is the Hydra hitting you while 2 overloads are hitting you. But this overload has pushed us. You can see this perch is really good. I'm not saying you can always stand here, definitely not, but it's good for some things up here, not always. Not always to be standing up here though. This Overload's going to push, we can get a stun. We have no nade, so this Overload's going to want to retreat, that's fine, so we'll jump down for the second stun. A bit risky, but that was fine. We'll get a nade in. Notice I'm jumping while I'm hip firing sweet business. Now you'll see I do that a lot with a lot of weapons, because when a target does splash damage, like imagine an anti-barrier knight or the Overload Minotaur, their shot can miss you if you do jumps. If you do short hops while you're hip firing a weapon, trying to break a shield or still knocking, they might miss you because of that. Whereas if you just stand there still, they're just going to pelt you down. So that's an advanced technique that you can do to sort of avoid splash damage. Depends on what sort of enemy you're fighting against. A sniper, that's not the case. Don't be just jumping about with a sniper. Right? A sniper is more strafe movement, whereas splash damage targets, you can do that technique I just done there. I only know that because I've died from stuff like that in GMs. Imagine the knight, the anti-barrier knight in the Sepix Prime Strike. Doing a technique like that stops you from maybe not dying, as opposed to definitely dying. So what I'm doing is doing damage to the boss. You can see I've stun locked the boss. He can't hit me from these stairs, so this is a really good place to do damage. There'll be no more adds because the adds are linked to the mini Hydra, as I've stated. So this is now just a damage gate. You need to get the boss to a 3rd HP to start the next phase, but what you can do is get the boss so he's immune, so that you're ready to do some spawn killing on some champs. This is extra tips for you, but as I said, it's not necessary for Master, but it will be necessary for Grandmaster. It's something that you're going to, all these little extra tips, they add up to the whole experience of it. Then you're more confident. You know, you took one side of arriving out as opposed to having two chasing you. Well, that's half the work. So it's like that. I made the boss immune. I'm next to the right side portal, so that's fine. We'll take right. You get arriving left and right. I'll use a Roman super here, save on rockets. I wouldn't recommend taking the second rive now, because by the time your super ends, you're going to have two barriers sniping you out in the open, and that's not a good thing, because these snipers do hit you hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double rocket on the riven, and then I'm going to rotate, because you're always timed. Now watch this adaptive munitions here. That was insane. It just melts the arc shield. So it is really good, this scout, for just the utility of it. It is really good that way. You know, it's overriding match game. So yeah, the scout's not the best. It's not vouchsafe. It's not as good as that. But if you're in a Grandmaster Nightfall, you're trying to solo it, and there's 3 match game shields, this scout rifle's useful, especially if there's barriers there. You'll see me use it on barriers in a bit. So we're rotating left, so you'll see I'll rotate from left to right. I'm not just going to stay on left, I'm not going to just stay on right. You know, I rotate between the two. The main thing is, I'm on phase 2. So just to remind you, phase 1 was complete. 4 overloads were killed. Phase 2 is all about barriers. Now that's 4 barriers, but it's 2 barriers, and then on the latter end of phase 2, there's an extra 2 barriers. But then there's also 4 rivens. So that's the kicker. So this is where you've got to be really assertive with getting these rivens down, because they can melt you just because of the void. They do void damage. This Nightfall has a cube void burn on, so you gotta be really careful with them. So what I'm trying to do here is bait the champions. So the Hydra, eventually the Hydra will become less aggroed on you. You can do a barricade to block the Hydra off. You can then isolate the Hydra from the barriers, which is ideally what you want to do. And then you can, I would recommend double rocket barriers, just because it's all about spawn. It's all about bursting these champs down when you get the chance. Okay. Now I recommend that you leave the Hydra up on this phase as well, because here's the thing: if you do that, you melt the Hydra down. You're going to get 4 barriers outside, which can be a pain, because that's four champions a chance at sniping you, and even if maybe 3 of them hit you, that could be death. And all it takes is one misstep from you as a player, and then it's over. So you've got to be careful. I'm going to use another. Actually, I'm going to use Sweet Business here. Tell a lie. I'm actually going risky for the finisher kill, which actually probably works out in my best interest, because as I said, you need a lot of rockets to be safe. I mean, I'm not on a Warlock. I must admit, on this setup, as opposed to the Warlock run that I've done, this was a lot more difficult because I didn't obviously have Devour. There is a Devour setup on the Titan, but I wouldn't recommend it, because you're losing out on important fragments. What would be the best bit setup is Heart of Inmost Light, but obviously I'm not covering that build today. I've covered it though in previous builds. So we've done enough damage to the Hydra. This is still phase 2, the second phase of it. I spawn killed one of the Rivens, left side portal. Now you have a choice here, because the next Riven may funnel into this into this middle corridor. If that happens, great. It just depends. You've got to keep your wits about you and check your radar at all times. But be ready with your rocket. You notice I've equipped my rocket just in case when that Riven comes round the corner, I can burst the Riven down, and you know, I feel safe with that. I'm just not sure where that Riven was. I was having trouble. So because I'm unsure, I'm going to do a quick scan outside and try and bait the Riven, see where the Riven is. We'll start dealing with some of these Arc Harpies. The Mini Hydra will follow you wherever you go. So it is something to be considered, that you've got to do a bit of rotation here. You can't just sit somewhere, okay? That's why Glassway is notorious for being difficult on Grandmaster, because there needs to be you thinking in your mind what's going to be coming next. Where is the Hydra? How many goblins have I taken out? Etc. You need to be sort of thinking all the time. Now we're going to deal with this Hydra to his third final phase. He'll go immune and disappear, of course. Then we'll do damage, and then it's rinse and repeat for the final phase. Then we switch back to overloads. No, sorry, no, it's not overloads. It's barriers. Sometimes the barriers can push. You push me there. Just be careful of that. What to do with these harpies first, though. Again, it's always about isolation. Isolating adds from another. You can see how much damage that sniper done to me. Obviously, I don't have sniper resist on, so if you get double sniped, it's a death. And I'm 1580 power in this, so imagine somebody a lot lower in power. I'm just trying to find a good angle. I think I've got a good angle now. Get a stun, double rocket, and then it's just one more barrier. The barrier is de-aggroed because these snipers, they tend not to push when there's only one of them alive. When there's 2 or 3, they'll push. You know, one pushes, one stays. That sort of tactic. But when there's one left, they just totally de-aggro from you. So at least I can sort of showcase the scout, which, as I said, it's really good. It is good on barriers. There's no doubt about it. But so is Arbalest. Arbalest could be the strap for this. For the GM difficulty. We'll see how that goes. but Arbalest would be a very good option because that can too also penetrate match game shields. It one-shots barriers, you know, so definitely could be be an option. So we'll do a barricade for protection here if we're going to do some spawn killing. It is overloads, my bad. I don't know why I was saying barriers on the next phase. It's overloads. Double rocket the overload grenade as well, and that's one overload down. The mini hydra was obviously spawned back in. Now if we're going to compare the two sides, right and left, right has its advantages with this perch, but left side's more safe. It's safer to a big degree, but this side has the utility of stunning a champion without that champion aggro on you, because the champion can't push you, because obviously you're on a perch, which is a design flaw for champions in general. I don't know why they can't jump. They should be. Actually, they can jump. I've seen Unstoppables jump, but champions are good, right? They have advanced AI to a degree, but they've got a lot of flaws about them, and they are annoying to fight at times. Whereas the Hive Guardians, they're difficult in a different way, because they're using super abilities which on Grandmaster will definitely one-shot you, without a shadow of a doubt. Blade Barrage, Sentinel Shields, bouncing off a wall and hitting you. That's going to be happening. But the thing is, you can take them out with whatever weapon you want, but they're also challenging in another way to what a barrier is. You know, they can jump up, roam around, come after you. So I do enjoy fighting against the Hive Guardians, definitely. But I think barriers, I think champions overall, they need to be the next level, because they've been out since Shadowkeep, right? Okay, so that's a couple of years ago now. We need to see some sort of major rework with champions. Maybe add a fourth champion type. I don't know. Up their AI a little bit. Make it so that they're more intelligent, but easier to stun. In my opinion, we need more stuff to be stunning these champs. We need more stuff. I've spoke about this for ages. We should have access to all mods at all times. Overload bow, overload auto rifle, overload hand cannon, overload, like, give us everything. Give us everything. And if that means they have to buff the HP on champs, then do so. I don't care. At least I've got variety. At this moment in time, it's fine. A new season comes out, it's fresh. Everything feels fine. But at the latter end of the season, you start getting tired of using a certain weapon type against a certain champion, because it's a mechanic over and over and over. The game would open up so much if they would just do that one thing and allow us to use any weapon type. Well, not any weapon type, but, you know, have more mods accessible. If they want, just have 2 weapons for each champion. Open it up, but use Overload Trace Rifle. Why have we not had that? Why have we not had Overload? I know we've got Divinity, right? Whatever, but why have we not had Overload Trace Rifle? It works. You put on Sacred Filaments, the exotic boots. Every weapon can overload a champ in the game, so there's no excuse. So I want to see. What I want to see, I've loved Witch Queen, etc. But in the next forthcoming seasons, I want to see more flexibility with armor mods, weapon mods on champs. I want to see mods that they haven't done in a while. I want to see that, and I want to see where they go with it. Now we're ready for damage, which there's another phase after this, which is going to be obviously the barriers to finish. And Rivens. We have a Roman Super which can be used to take out a Riven or 2. If both Rivens push you in one of the rooms, one Roman Super will definitely clear out both of them. So it's very useful using the banner shield. I'm just what I'm trying to do here is bait the boss over to right side. Because again, what I want to do is spawn kill some ads on right side. Knowing where the HP gate is very important. It's a 3rd HP. So if you know exactly where that is, then, as I said, you can get the boss immune and then be ready for damage on these Rivens and stuff. Okay, we only got one Riven. That's obviously, that, you know, it could have been better, but as I said to you, if you try and take the second Riven when you're out there in the Vex pool, those two barriers are going to snipe you down once your super expires. So you need to think about the end game. You're not just thinking about, oh, I'll use my super, I'll kill both Rivens. Then what? What about after that? You've got nowhere to run. Like, you might need 5 seconds to get to the safe zones. 5 seconds too much. Those two barriers could then snipe you. Your run's over. So sometimes when you're using a Roman style super, you're using it in a protective manner as well, not just for ad clear. Because there's not mostly speaking, there's not a lot of ads in this. You're mainly dealing with champs. There's more champs than there is ads. Honestly, there's a lot of champs. The minor ads, they're just goblins, fanatics. That's it. So the two Rivens are dealt with. Ideally, as I was saying earlier, if you melt down the Hydra at the very start of a phase, you're going to get another two champions. That would be 4 barriers outside. That is not ideal. We have the heavy to deal with it, so we'll deal with the 2 barriers that are there now. We'll let the Hydra be passive. You can see he's being passive. The Hydra won't push you, but he will shoot his arc attack at you. What I'm doing here though is I'm trying to establish where the barrier was. He's here. I'll double rocket him. Get a shield break as well. Luckily he's still finishable. Get a finisher kill. And that's just more heavy for the next phase. Because we've still got 2 Rivens to take. And another 2 barriers. Right now it's in my best interest to melt this mini Hydra and take him out, because all you're doing there is leaving the Hydra up, and there's no gain to that, because there's no more ads. Once the Hydra, actually sorry, the ads actually spawn when the Hydra's killed. My bad. I thought they spawned sooner than that. So obviously, yeah, spawn kill the Hydra. I wasn't need a portal here to spawn kill. Not so much, but I'll go left to see if we can take advantage. Too late. So that's what happens when you are too late on a portal. That's what happens. They teleport out of your zone and then they push in this zone here, like so. So on Grandmaster, that would be a huge error what I just done there. But on this difficulty, obviously not. You know, obviously on Master it's not the same difficulty that way, but it's not meant to be easy. Take out some of these ads. There's 1 Riven left up. Don't forget that's a common fault of people. They maybe forget there's still a Riven alive, comes around the corner, wipes your entire team. So you've got to be counting. I know it's only 4 Rivens, but you can forget. Easy done when there's a lot of things going on. So that's all the ads taken care of. It's just boss damage and the 2 final champs. The reason why this would be difficult if you left 4 champions up is this. The boss will cycle wherever you are, obviously. So I'm on left hand side. There's 3 exits to this particular area. So the boss will cycle between 3 exits. So if I'm standing in middle, eventually that boss will spam middle with his void attack. Same if I go left, he'll spam his void. The best zone to take barriers out is in this middle alleyway. And it is for Grandmaster as well. It's just a case of baiting the champions to where you need them to be, like so. You know, show yourself, go back to where you need to be. Keep doing that. The only danger is obviously you're going to bait the boss. So this is where burst damage is important. I missed my last rocket. That was unfortunate. I'll have to get a reload. I'll do another rocket. I'll get a shield break here. Because I missed a rocket there, that caused a bit of grief for me, but that's the last barrier taken out. So we've got platinum rank now. We've got tons of heavy in middle. So now we're just gonna melt the boss down. But that was the Solar Master Nightfall, getting Platinum rank on a Titan using the Sweet Business build. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
That's the last of it.